we need to then think about what a human subject actually is. Social media data can be analysed as a data set, so the question is who or what is human? Is an avatar human? How about a character in an online game? Would you consider that to be human or non-human? So I've already got people shaking their heads and smiling, and it's very, very difficult to know which way that's going to fall out. What do we do with data sets that are made available to us? Technology is continuously collecting data and information. What do we do with that information? Do we leave it to one side, or do we actually allow people to access it? And if we allow people to access it, how and what? In this particular instance, doing the further analysis would not adversely impact participants. The analysis itself wasn't going to happen and the collection had already occurred. How do we feel about that? And what do we do about these data sets and the information contained therein? Who owns them? And what access should we have? And really, when do we need to review our applicants and what is our applications and what is our benchmark? At what point do we as an ethics committee get involved? The final thing I want to talk about very, very quickly is privacy. And I would suggest that this is the main basis of most of the other ethical concerns that we have, because privacy is one of those things that's fairly obvious in an offline world, but more difficult to define in an online world. So there are two real options that we can talk about in terms of privacy. The first one is understanding privacy as a continuum. That is, that if you have a strong individual conception of self, as in America, all the way through to a strongly relational conception of self, which really sits in Confucian and Buddhist societies. Who you are is actually related either only to who you are as an individual, or who you are is related only to who you are and how you sit in relation to others within your social network. But this will situate you somewhere along the lines in terms of the continuum that I have up there. So the first option is that you have complete individual privacy. Now, individual privacy sort of sits where as an individual I have complete control over absolutely everything about myself, and I get to choose who knows what about me at any given moment. We then sort of shuffle along the continuum to group privacy. And group privacy, I think, is something you're all familiar with, but it's not something that's legally enshrined, and that is that it's the stuff that people know within your intimate circle, and that not allowing people to share that kind of information actually results in you being excluded. But it's something that sort of outsiders don't know about. So if you think about gossip and appropriate gossip and that kind of insider knowledge, that's kind of where that is sort of situated. And then you've got publicly, where you actually sort of sit where there is no privacy at all, that everything about you is kind of open slather. And the difficulty we really have as ethics committees is, first of all, that I think that we tend to sit at the level of individual privacy, right? But I think that social media and social media researchers realistically sit further towards either group privacy or publicly. And so the question we've got is, how do you actually merge the two? The other way we can think about it is to divide privacy into three different areas. First of all, accessibility privacy. This refers to freedom from unwanted intrusion, the right to be let alone or being free from intrusion, which is again where most committees kind of sit, except if you're obviously in a public area. Second is decisional privacy, freedom from interference from others in personal choices, plans and decisions. And the third one is informational privacy, the ability to control the information we consider personal. The difficulty with social media, and as soon as you step online, is all of those three levels of privacy are simply gone, because we do submit them to the corporations and often to the government as one of the conditions that we have for stepping online. And so as ethics committees, we actually really need to think through a lot of these areas around who owns what we have, who owns sort of the information that we give out, and how do we actually respond to researchers and to participants when they're kind of engaging with this sort of stuff. This is also a problem because we have issues which are specific to online areas. First of all, we have greased information, the instantaneous exchange of information and images. This is particularly a problem with things like Snapchat. You've got talking back. Communication online is not one way. It is actually sort of horizontal, that you have participants talking back up, down and sideways. And how do you actually manage that kind of interaction and interplay? And third, as subjects online, we do sign up for voluntary surveillance in our terms and conditions. And so as ethics committees, what do we actually do about that in terms of, are we actually raising an artificially high bar for researchers when our subjects have already largely sort of pushed that to one side.